Welcome to the Gus Alva Perspective, a video cast that elevates the concept of abundance and gratitude over the mindset of scarcity and fear. You know, I'm a board certified psychiatrist. I live in California, and oftentimes my patients ask me some very important questions. Beyond taking care of their medical needs, sometimes they want practical advice. And oftentimes, one of the questions that I'm asked is, why do I pay so much for insurance? And you know what? I pondered on that and I thought this might actually be a really good theme to touch on. So this video cast is going to be specifically looking at why is it that we pay so much for insurance? Now, it made me take a look at this a little bit deeper. And it turns out that the type and extent of coverage that you have significantly impacts the cost of what you pay. Comprehensive coverage has higher limits and additional features, which ultimately mean that it's going to be a policy that costs more. And as I was doing a little bit more diving and figuring this out, it turns out that people have different risk factors, and that underwriting process that people go through is a very important point. Insurers assess various risk factors that are related to you or your property or your vehicle or your personal health. And if you're perceived to have a higher risk, meaning you've got a poor driving record, poor health, you live in a high crime area, well, your premiums are likely to be higher. Location, geography, unfortunately, smarts for me. Turns out, your location plays a significant role in how much money you pay. So areas that are prone to natural disaster or higher crime rates or frequent accidents oftentimes have higher insurance costs due to increased risks. Now, it turns out that insurance companies vary, as do policies. And different insurance companies have varying pricing strategies as well as policies. It's possible that the insurance provider that you've chosen has higher rates compared to others. So it's not a bad idea to do your due diligence. Look around, shop around, figure out who gives you the best deal. Deductibles and coverage limits are also important. Lower deductibles and higher coverage limits oftentimes result in higher premiums. And if you evaluate if you can adjust these to lower your premium while maintaining adequate coverage, that might actually drive down some of the expenditure that you might actually be paying. Believe it or not, your credit score and your history are also important. Insurers oftentimes consider credit scores as well as financial history in determining premiums. A lower credit score might result in higher premiums. So believe it or not, the debt you carry oftentimes carries over to other areas in your life. A claims history is also important, especially if you've made multiple claims in the past. That ultimately is going to lead to higher premiums as you may be seen as a higher risk policyholder. So remember, insurance companies are in the business of not necessarily paying out, but actually receiving payment. But it's one of those inherent things that you need to have insurance for different types of issues. Now, if you're looking at, say, a vehicle or a property type, the type and value of your vehicle or property can influence the insurance cost also. More expensive or high risk vehicles or properties oftentimes have higher premiums. Now, another important area are age and demographics. Your age, your gender, your marital status might impact insurance rates. So it turns out that younger or less experienced drivers typically face higher premiums. Kind of makes sense, right? They're not necessarily going to be as experienced. There's also other things that play out, and these things include discounts or bundling opportunities. So, it's important that you take advantage of all available discounts. One strategy is bundling multiple policies. For example, if you've got an insurance carrier that handles your health, your home, your auto insurance, well, obviously that's going to help you out. Good driver discounts, another very important thing. Safety feature discounts. These are all things that you should actually be asking about. And insurance market conditions are also another important thing. Here in California, we're seeing a very interesting thing. Insurance companies are just jacking up prices left and right because the market conditions allow that. The politicians in our state allow that. Customers get gouged. That's allowed by the people that we elect. And unfortunately, the regulations that are set in place are things that we can't necessarily do anything about. Remember, economic factors or increased claims due to recent events can also influence insurance premiums. And so, the critical issue for all of us is that when reviewing our insurance policies, we might want to compare quotes from different providers, discuss concerns that we might have with the agent or broker that we're working with. And remember that those brokers can provide insights and potentially help us find a more cost-effective insurance solution. Several factors contribute to a higher insurance cost for homes and cars in California. Obviously, I speak to that because this is the region in which I live. The so-called reasons for relatively higher insurance rates in California include the fact that we're more prone to wildfires, earthquakes, mudslides, floods. We're in an earthquake risk area because remember, California is located in the Pacific Ring of Fire, and so it's more susceptible to earthquakes. Great. Earthquake insurance, by the way, is an additional cost for people that are homeowners. Also, in California, we have enormously high property values. So remember, if all of a sudden your house burns down, the insurance company is going to have to cover the value of the properties that are at risk. Now, areas that have a higher density of population and traffic congestion are more prone towards accidents, thus higher auto insurance rates. Remember, California is also an environment in which litigious issues arise. We have a lot of attorneys, and there's a high number of legal claims and lawsuits. Insurance regulations, like I said, specific mandates and regulations affect premiums, coverage, associated costs. And by the way, repairing and replacing something has a high cost in California. And so insurance premiums get adjusted according to cover these potential expenses. Other things, crime rates, theft, vandalism, property damage. Unfortunately, we're seeing a whole heck of a lot more of that in areas like San Francisco, LA, and so on. And again, it is based on the fact that we have certain elected individuals that allow for that to happen. The risk of wildfires is particularly noted in certain regions, and the cost of doing business is oftentimes passed on to the consumer. That means you and I. So in thinking about this issue, why is insurance so expensive? It made me actually plumb deeper and think about this. The most important thing for our abundance and gratitude mindset is that it's important to shop around and compare insurance options to find the best coverage and rate. That abundance and gratitude mindset allows us to additionally take preventive measures to mitigate risks and implementing safety features. These ultimately help reduce insurance premiums. With that said, it's an interesting topic. It's one that we run into all the time, and one that oftentimes affects many of the patients that I see, but they oftentimes ask, well, why is insurance so expensive? Another video cast that I'm going to touch base on is who runs medicine. Oftentimes people think that it's insurance companies, but we'll dive into that in a separate video cast. For now, I thank you for joining us on the Gus Alba Perspective on this theme of why is insurance so expensive? Thank you.